we have exhausted law of sines and all the rules and everything that go with it, so we're moving on to law of cosine. Law of cosines is the same idea, it's just we're not given the same information, and so we use a different formula that involves cosine, hence law of cosines. So it looks like there's 6 different formulas if you look at your notes here, but it's the same formula manipulated. So if you look, you've got a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine a. Little a and big A are on the ends, and you use the other sides in the middle, but the formulas stay the same for all the standard form. When it says alternative form, all they have done is gotten cosine A by itself. So for instance, like, what do I do, like algebra 1 steps, to get that by itself? Well, I would subtract the b squared, the c squared, and I would divide by negative 2bc. I don't like the negative on the bottom, so that's why the signs change, but that's where that comes from. So it's not actually a whole new formula. It's just much easier to solve if you're given the alternative form instead of having to solve for A all on your own every time. Okay. If you have a highlighter, this is the most important thing I could say all day. If we are given side, 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 you must start with the longest side first. If you were to do straight law of cosines all the way through, you wouldn't have to start with the longest side, but we often switch back to law of sines, and in order for it to work out correctly, we must start with the longest side first, okay? And then here are your steps for side, angle, side. So quickly, let's look at an example of each. And we finally get to look at why making this table that Miss Reidner makes every time is so important. Sometimes you're given a triangle that just says solve, and you don't know which one to use. Like, it doesn't tell you, are you using law of sines or are you using law of cosine? Obviously, this section is all going to be law of cosine, but you're going to put them together and have to figure out on your own which one's which, okay? So if I look here, I notice that I have no small letter and no big letter together, and every other time I have. That's how I know to use law of cosine, is because I don't have little a and big A. I don't have little b and big B, or little c and big C, okay? So, going back to what I made you highlight, for law of cosine, I must start with the longest side. So that means I am finding big C first so that this works out nice, okay? I'm going to use the alternative form that says cosine C equals, and I'm actually going to write the whole thing out here, but it's on your front page, okay? And then I'm going to plug in all the things. So 13 squared plus 7 squared minus 19 squared all over 2 times 13 times 7. Now, if you type all this in your calculator and you hit enter, you're going to get a really random decimal smaller than 1, and you're going to be like, something doesn't seem right. You would be correct, because we actually don't have cosine C. We don't have C by itself. We have cosine C. So remember, to get C by itself, we actually have to do cosine inverse of that fraction. Okay, so don't forget the cosine inverse. Then you're ready to type it in your calculator. Let me redo that there. Type that in your calculator to get approximately 142 degrees. All right, from here, you have the option. If that was pretty easy, do law of cosine for B, do law of cosine for A, be done. Same formula, just switch your numbers around. If you're like, I've been doing law of sines so long, and I'm awesome at it, I want to do law of sines, you're allowed now, because now we have two different things for law of sines. So we can say sine of 142 over 19 is equal to sine A over 13, and then we can cross multiply and solve like we have been before. So it is totally your choice. Both work. Again, it's back to that. Math is always a set of rules that work. Even if they're different rules, they're still going to work. So cross multiply, divide, and inverse. Don't forget the inverse. Type that in your calculator to get approximately 25. And then, could I do law of sine again? Could I do law of cosine? Yes, but let's work smarter, not harder. I have two angles, and I want to find the third angle. I'm just going to subtract from 180 to get 13 degrees. And so that's with side. When you're ready, join me back for a side angle side, and then that will be the end of law of cosine. You're getting close.